Alright, I'm back. This is going to be my last game for the evening that I'm going to be uploading, but this time I'm playing against Metric Blindness, and like the title says, I'm playing Yisan. I have been brewing a two-color deck, just to give you guys a nice treat. It's Widwin the Biting Gale. It's very close to my Vendilion Click deck, but I know I've been playing Yisan a ton, so I wanted to build a more control tempo type build, sort of like my Vendilion Click deck, but branching into a second color some. So that is in the works. I'm still tweaking it, finalizing a list, and I'm trying to not spend too much money on it, so bits and pieces are being bought as I go. Or I'm going to try to trade for a couple pieces from my friends here on here. So that is in the works and coming soon. But today we are playing Yisan against, let me jump through, there we go, Seton Krosan Protector. So mono green matchup, and Seton is a druid tribal build almost always. Tap an untap druid you control, add green to your mana pool. Pretty good. It's probably in the solidly tier 2, if not 2-5 of mono green. And keep in mind, I think tier 2 is very large for mono green. But it's definitely a good commander in the right build, but it is almost always tribal druids because of its effects. So it could be green good stuff because they druids on the low end tend to ramp really well with Seton. The turn you untap after Seton comes into play, and all of your mana is untapped again, you do go from about 4 or 5 mana in play to almost 10 sometimes. I have a hand. I'm short one land, and this is, I mentioned it in my previous video. I keep feeling like Mazavith probably doesn't belong in this deck, but I haven't decided to cut it or not yet. But hands like this are where it definitely hurts. If this was a forest, this would be a snap keep. I know I have turn 2 Yisan off of this hand if this is a forest, and it's not. So it's what's really drawing me away from Mazavith rapidly. But it does do some work this game with its threat. So I keep the hand. Thankfully I get to play, and I scry. I don't have a scry because it's 7. So I go with the Fenhorn Elves, Forest into Usurper's Fall. So and he chooses green for it, naturally. So I get Seeker Skybreak. Alright, so that's almost mana. So I play Seeker Skybreak because next turn I can use it to untap Fenhorn Elves and put Yisan into play. I don't know why this closes every time I start the game. So I go with the Mazavith just to get my land down for the turn. Might as well put it out. And turn 2 Gaia's Cradle. Doesn't tap for anything, but then Wirewood Symbiote and ships the turn. So when I see this, I think he's definitely on the Elf Ball build because most elves that tap for mana are also druids. So Symbiote's pretty good, but it is not a druid. Gaia's Cradle is going to be a problem, though, and I'm going to have to play very tight to get around that. I pick up Green Sun Zenith, and I think for a while about what I want to do this turn, and I decide that Green Sun, I could play Concordant Crossroads, but I don't really want to do that, especially with him about to have a lot of mana on his next turn. I could go with Yisan, and put him out for 3 mana, but I actually decided to play Green Sun Zenith here. I'm expecting him to be on an Elf Ball build, and if he is, I can get Priest of Titania here for 2. And if he plays, and it will already produce 3 mana on my next turn. So I spend this turn to go from 3 mana to 6 mana on my next turn if I don't draw a land. If he plays a single elf, next turn I'll have the ability to use Priest of Titania to produce a bunch of mana with Seeker of Skybreak, untapping Priest of Titania. To go from 3, maybe 4. If he plays 1 elf, I make 4 mana, tap, untap, 8 mana, 9 mana, and that is enough to play Concordant Crossroads, play Yisan, and activate Yisan all in the same turn. And that's going to be my plan as I move forward. So I'm going to Green Sun 2 and get that Priest of Titania into play. And then I ship the turn back, and this saves me 1 damage this turn at least. So he checks his mana for a sec, chooses to not use Cradle yet, because it's pointless to. It basically means Quirion's free at that point. Thankfully, he did play an elf, and a really bad elf in his situation with the single forest that he's played so far, having Utopia Sprawl on it. So Gets Cradle, and Seton comes down, and I believe, and that's it. Yep. And he thinks about it, realizes I have Maze, doesn't matter. Cool, Maze saved me 1 damage, instead of having me turn 2 Yisan this game. I don't know if that's good or bad at this point. I pick up a Forest, so that's pretty awesome. So, Priest taps for 4, that means 8 out of Skybreaker, 9, 10, 11. So, definitely in the driver's seat here. Go with the Corner Crossroads. And I'm not really worried about it. Seton is similar to Izami in the sense that you don't need them to have haste to tap them. So giving all of them haste doesn't really do anything for him. And I think about it for a sec. Tap a bunch of mana. I realize I can tap for 8 here, or an additional 4, or I could play Tajuru Preserver first, and then tap for 5. And looking at my mana, I realize I probably could have done that first. So I could play Concordant Crossroads, green, green, Tajuru Preserver, tap 5, untap, tap 5, and I would be at 9 after this play. Because this puts me to 7, 8, 9, and I would have been at 10 if I had done that first, I believe. So, little trade-offs, but that's okay. I only needed enough to deploy Yisan here, and activate Yisan. Go for 1, and I decided to get Quirion Ranger here because I just want to put Woodland Bellower into play at this point, and start threatening him as much as possible. And this is probably the misplay that I make game. So I go for Woodland Bellower, and I have a couple options. Let me get the deck up. There we go. So I have quite a lot of options. I could go for Wirewood Symbiote, which is ultimately what I decide here, because and to me, Wirewood Symbiote is because I have Azuri in play, and I just want to make as much mana off Priest as possible. And start chaining Yisan as high as I possibly can using Symbiote. Ranger untap Yisan, use Yisan. Symbiote untap Yisan, bounce Ranger, replay Ranger, reuse Ranger, untap Yisan. And can go up 3 times per one of my turns, and twice during my opponent's. And get to Acidic Slime to destroy the Gaea's Cradle, is my thought process here. I could have gotten Ulvenwald Tracker, who has haste, I have 2 mana, and use Woodland Bellower to fight Seton, and that probably could have been the correct play here instead of that, because I wasn't thinking haste. I was thinking, let's make as much mana as possible and win very quickly. And it's probable that I should have used Ulvenwald Tracker here instead of one of the other one of the other creatures in the deck, especially considering that's one of the cards that I cannot get off Yisan at this point. Fierce Empath, I don't have the mana to deploy anything off of Fierce Empath, but I wouldn't fault myself for doing it and getting something like the Regal Force. Eternal Witness doesn't get me anything. Visionary doesn't do anything for me without the Symbiote in play. Doesn't hit. I could get Reclamation Sage and destroy Utopia Sprawl, but denying him a single mana when he has Gaea's Cradle in play doesn't seem like a very effective. So I decided to go with the Symbiote, but the correct play probably would have been to get the Tracker. So go Symbiote and do more untapping, play Quirion Ranger, make 7, check that how much I make. With my plan being to use Quirion Ranger on his turn, untap Yisan, and use Yisan up to 2. Go to 0 forests and play. I get him for 6 here, which is pretty nice. And shut the turn back. He's definitely not going to chump it, because each of his effectively creates 1 mana when he has Gaea's Cradle. Taps all his mana, and goes with our Argothian Elder here. And I'm the one who gave him haste. This cost him 4 mana, but by putting it into play, it will produce him 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana, because Gaea's Cradle will become untapped. So I have to use my Yisan at 2 play to go get a very specific card that isn't a great answer in the deck. Activate Yisan and put Phyrexian Revoker into play, naming Argothian Elder. And keep in mind, because I use Symbiote there to untap Yisan and go to 2, I'm going to use Quirion Ranger after this to bounce this forest and Yisan up to 3. So he doesn't have haste, and he has Vitalize, which would have been insane if this makes 6 mana. He tapped it for 1 at this point instead of 6. So keep in mind, he could have been 5 mana higher than he currently is. So he could have been at 7 here instead of 2. 8, 9 instead of 4. Oh, sorry. If I didn't name that, that would have been 3, 8, and then this is another 6. He could have been at 14 mana this turn with this thing in play, and the Vitalize, and instead he's at 4 mana. Insane. And use a Quirion Ranger to untap the Elder and bounce his Forest. Alright. And replay the Forest. 5 mana. Goes with Acidic Slime. So definitely had to work around to kill this Phyrexian Revoker. And I'm very glad about it because he's ignoring the threat that is currently sitting on the table. And some of you have seen my Yisan games might know where I'm leading to with this. I have a haste effect in play. There are a ton of elves in play currently. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elves, which is more than enough to use the Temur Sabertooth kill with Priest of Titania. And I even have the overrun effect to finish it off. That said, I have Wirewood Symbiote to bounce elf, and then Temur Sabertooth to bounce Symbiote, continuously untapping Yisan, and move Yisan all the way up to Kamal if I have to. So, Acidic Slime kills Phyrexian Revoker instead of the Concordant Crossroads that he just needs to get off the table. He can't afford to let me have haste. So, I decided to go with... So he untaps... so I untapped Yisan in response, just in case I wanted to get myself out of danger zone. He had no mana. I didn't want to lose to like a random beast within. I have 4 mana floating this whole time. Guiltleaf Archdruid. Well, you are more than welcome to gain control of all lands target player controls. I have no lands in play that make mana, so usually this is probably pretty good in EDH. Against Yisan, it just does not matter at this point. And he's going to untap Seton, which I thought was weird. He should have just untapped the Argathonian Elder. I mean, it makes way more mana, and it's also a 2/2. I think this was a misplay. Like, why do that? You have Forest for a single mana if that's what you want, and you would have still had Quirion Ranger in play. And he goes with a Yisan of his own, but keep in mind if he had untapped the Elder, tap Forest, float 1, Gaze Riddle 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, play Yisan, go down to 3, play Quirion Ranger, go down to 1, or go down to 2. Like, it would have deployed Quirion Ranger this turn at the very least. And his Guiltleaf would have been untapped. I'm just going to put myself in the driver's position with more mana than I could possibly need. I probably should have gotten Fierce Empath here, but it's just so satisfying having so much mana. It's also a Lord. Pick up Yavi Hollow, not necessary. I'm going to play the Forest up because that enables Quirion Ranger. I'm going to go up to 4 and get my lovely Temur Sabertooth and promptly end the game here. And I'm going to do the... And one of the things that I would like in the recent update is they updated Temur Sabertooth's ability from asking you every time if you want to use it to allowing you to always yes and always yield to the ability. So when I cycle through this, it actually goes a little bit faster. Now, all I have to do is click on Sabertooth, spend a second mana because it'll automatically use one of the green in the pool, and I have to select what I want to use for the generic mana. Use the mana, and then select what I want to bounce, and then play this, select the second mana to use for it, and then tap it, and then Sabertooth. There's no more yes clicking over here, thankfully, which is pretty awesome. And make a ton of mana, and play Zuri. And I comment in the chat, I have infinite mana at this point, and then I play Zuri just to demonstrate that I also have a win off the infinite mana. That said, I think people who are familiar with Yisan, especially if it's in his deck, he should know that Symbiote, infinite mana plus Symbiote plus Temur Sabertooth and a haste effect is infinite Yisan activations as well, and I could put every creature from my deck into play and swing out. I'm curious as to how much damage I could probably get off of that. Considering it's infinite damage, or infinite mana, the damage is also infinite with Kamal in my deck, but it's pretty interesting. And I think theoretically I can also put every land from my deck into play with Sakura Tribe Scout now in the deck, because I can use Symbiote to untap Tribe Scout put land into play, bounce Symbiote. Yeah, I think I can play every single card in my deck entirely at this point, because Sakura Tribe Scout's been added to the list. So I make a ton of mana. I think I go up to like 30 something. Yeah. Yeah, and I start activating Azuri. Go all the way down to 1. And I crash him with everything except the symbiote. And the reason for that is if he somehow has some fog effect, like bounce this elf to untap this and float mana and fog me somehow, because I know he has Quirion Ranger as one of his 2 cards. I have plenty of time on my clock. My plan on main 2, if he somehow fogs, is restart the combo by bouncing one of my elves with Symbiote and restarting the mana, using Yisan through my entire deck to Terrastodon his lands, give him some elephants, and then duplicate his entire board away, starting with the Symbiote. And that would promptly end the game. After Duplicate eats his entire board, including the elephant tokens I give him, and go for the flawless victory, knowing that he would have only a Quirion Ranger in hand, there's no way to come back from that. So this is really the cool combo in Yisan that's a little bit janky, but if you think about it, he gets all of this up the curve. He gets the 1-drop, the 2-drop, the 3-drop is usually something like Wood Elves or Elvish Archdruid, and then the 4-drop Team or Sabretooth. And if you have any other elves along the way, you get there very quickly, especially like Meta Elf on turn 1. I hope you guys enjoyed the game. Sorry this one went a little bit longer than my last 2, but we actually had more of a game here. I thought it was pretty cool, and definitely Phyrexian Revoker probably saved me a little bit of considering what his unknown card could have been in hand. So hope you guys enjoy it. I will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. Let me know in the comments down below if you like this one or if you like my broken Sol Ring Mana Crypt openings. I prefer these types of games that are a little bit iffy on the opening hand, but pan out really well because of good and skilled gameplay instead of luck.